Well, that's a bit of a wake-up call, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I'm rather overwhelmed the way you're talking about how everything is interlinked, and on top of it, that it's going to cost so much money, potentially. Where do you start?
Well, I mean, you start obviously where you get the most benefits at the same time, but it's actually I mean, I would say it's necessary to start really to some degree on all fronts together. So, for example, if you look at electrification of transport, which is the prime example here in Norway, in some sense it wouldn't make sense to do this for many countries at this point if their supply side, if the power generation isn't decarbonized, because then you don't get any benefits on the climate side. You may, however, get benefits on the air pollution side within the cities, which is clearly important, and you may need this to really create this enabling environment to be where you need to be in the future. So I think action is really needed almost on all fronts.
On all fronts. It's a jigsaw puzzle, though, isn't it? Lots of different pieces to fit in. I'd like to bring in some of our expert panel now to have some comments on and some thoughts on what Volker had to say. Yes. Atsushi Kurosawa, who's from the Institute of Applied Energy.
Yeah. My name is Atsushi Kurosawa from the Institute of Applied Energy Japan. So you showed us interlinkage between the food and health. And also, in this Norway is rich in the water resources. So water nexus for the energy is another issue. So could you touch upon this issue briefly?
Yeah, it's actually a good point. I would have had a few slides on that, but in the interest of time, didn't put them in. So that gives me now the opportunity to talk about it at least. From my perspective, yeah, it is an important point. The relevance is definitely of regional, I mean, regionally varies. In particular, in arid areas, if you look at countries like Saudi Arabia, that at the moment significantly over-deplete their groundwater resources, managing that transition at the same time as addressing climate change is of high importance. So. On the other hand, I would argue the technology is definitely there. It might be a bit more costly in terms of looking at cooling systems for thermal power generation that use either very little water or rely essentially on dry cooling. On the other hand, some of the non-combustible renewables, including solar PV and wind, have this large benefit of being actually very water efficient. So I would say your actual mitigation portfolio would need to be tailored to individual regions, taking into account water availability and other factors as a boundary condition. So this is why we really need to think of regionally tailored portfolios of measures rather than having one set of technology that works everywhere.
Let's bring in Jennifer. Oh, I'm a little bit too close to the speaker there. Jennifer Laker, who is from World Resources Institute.
Volker, thank you so much for your very interesting presentation. I'm wondering, you highlighted here the need for significant shifts of investment towards energy efficiency as one of the main areas that you think will be required to move from a 1.5 or 2 degree future. Could you discuss a little bit how you model energy efficiency and demand issues in the work that you've done, and what are some of the policies? This is obviously a difficult area to look at given the diffusion of technology into many different decision-making structures and policies. How do you view the opportunity in energy efficiency, and where can we go from here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. To the first question, the way how we model that, there is unfortunately not one answer, or maybe that's also the good news. I presented essentially an assessment, a meta-analysis of studies with different models, and the degree of detail and sophistication the end-use sector is modeled varies quite significantly. Some of these models have significant technology resolution. Most recently, studies also try to incorporate behavioral aspects, which are crucial in the end-use sectors for getting a realistic assessment of adoption of efficient technologies. I mean, you know as well, or probably better than I do, that there are also significant barriers in the uptake of many efficiency measures that do look, or that would be cost-effective from a social planner or a policymaker perspective, but in the end do not get implemented because of many of these hurdles. Actually, to be fair, I think here the modeling work needs to be complemented with a lot of empirical analysis that provides many more insights on what these actual problems are, looking also at successful examples in regions where these barriers have been overcome to really get this transformation and the investments mobilized specifically on the energy demand side.
Jennifer, you're nodding there. Is there anything else you're taking from what Volker has to say?
Well, we know that renovation rates for buildings don't go over perhaps 3% per year. And so if I look at the trajectory we're on and the challenge we're facing, it is significant. And we need a disruptive policy mechanism and a reallocation of investment at a scale that we haven't seen to date, even in the countries where we have the most significant progress on energy efficiency. And so I'm heartened with the focus on that in this presentation, and I certainly think we have a ways to go before we have really worked on achieving this type of a goal.
Fully agree.
We've got time for two more. Christian von Hirschhausen, who is from DIW in Berlin. Over to you.
It's green. Thank you very much for this very interesting talk. I have one comment and a question. The comment would be, I'm a little bit surprised that you count nuclear energy amongst the clean energies. We'll discuss about CCS later on, but nuclear is definitely not a clean energy. Nuclear is a very dirty energy. It's very dangerous energy, and there's not one country in the world that has coped with the issue of how to deal with long-term storage of nuclear waste. Plus, nuclear is a very expensive energy. We talk about 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 euros or dollars per kilowatt, and so I don't think it makes sense to bundle CCS, nuclear, and renewables, except if you're Donald Trump, of course. The question that I'm really interested in is on bioenergy. I have in the back of my mind a figure of about 200 to 500 exajoule of bioenergy being available comes from the special report on renewables by the IPCC, and you have clearly these effects that an increase in the prices is welfare loss for agriculture, but it can also be a welfare gain. And the literature on this is very open. It's not clear, even from CGE models, whether more of bioenergy has a positive effect or a negative effect on the poor. So I would like to open this discussion and have your opinion on whether the effects of bioenergy could not also be seen positive to the extent that it may help local agriculture development. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Answer that in a nutshell, please, Volker.
Okay, we'll try to do so. On the first comment, I have bundled nuclear with CCS and renewables here, despite not being Donald Trump. And this is purely from a greenhouse gas perspective. I mean, there are obviously a ton of reasons why you may want to prefer one over the other technology. But from a greenhouse gas perspective, I think we would have a hard time arguing that nuclear is very greenhouse gas intensive. But I don't think we should engage into a discussion, because that would probably take the rest of the day, the rest of the week, maybe the rest of the year, and won't get us much further. On your second point, the issue is not to say that bioenergy is bad at all costs, but it deserves attention in this specific context. So it is a matter of rather how you do it compared to do you do it at all. So there will be solutions, and here I completely agree with you. If you find a good implementation that benefits the poor, you can completely, you might be able to completely mitigate this, this effect. But we have seen in the past policies that had this effect. So it's really a matter of how to do it, and paying attention to it seems to be highly relevant here.